Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Lauren Izo, and coming up in this edition, Google is planning to connect Israel and Saudi Arabia on a new level with a fiber optic internet cable. As tensions rise on Israel's northern front with Syria, the IDF is reportedly dropping a stern warning. And Alexa, what is anti-Semitism? British politicians are asking why the Amazon virtual assistant is inciting Holocaust denial. Winter weather is in full swing throughout the country, causing dangerous flooding. Storms overnight Wednesday and continuing today have caused road closures in the central cities of Tel Aviv, Bnei Brak, Ramat HaSharon, and more. In Ashkelon, an entire road collapsed. There have also been unprecedented lightning strikes, in fact, more than 10 times the average, with more than 2,000 strikes since Wednesday, according to the Israel Electric Company. Also, it's not all bad news. The Water Authority is reporting sea levels in the Kinneret have risen 2.5 centimeters in the last 24 hours. The economic relationship between Israel and the UAE is slowly developing. This week, the Dubai-Israel conference is highlighting exactly that. Organized by Calcalist and Israel's Channel 13, the three-day event is hosting speakers from the business sector, economy experts, and prominent CEOs. The conference is covering relations in finance, technology, industry, agriculture, health, and tourism. Ron Friedman is the managing editor of CTech by Calcalist, and he joins me now from Dubai. Hey, Ron, thanks for joining us. Tell us about the highlights from the conference.
Hey, Lauren, great to be with you. I'm actually speaking to you from the artificial island, Palm Jumeirah in Dubai. As you can see, a bit of the background of the city behind me and the beach. Now, I'm not here to report on beach time activities. We were here in Dubai for a first of its kind historic conference, really, organized by Kalkalist, by Reshet 13, Israeli News, and by Bank Leumi, one of Israel's largest banks. It was a huge delegation of 200 plus businessmen, businesswomen, representing industries from banking and finance and high tech and construction and tourism, and you name it. And the reason for the conference was to meet the local Emirati business people and start forging these relations and benefiting from the peace that was signed just a couple of short months ago.
Okay, and what kind of collaborations do we see forming from this event?
It's from this event and others. There's a great interest on both sides. So definitely from the Israeli side, they see this as a great opportunity for new investments, great opportunity for collaborations, possible acquisitions. And from the Emirati side, they want access to what Israel does best, which is innovate. They're looking for technology. They're looking for new ways of conducting traditional businesses. And Israelis really have everything that they want. Obviously, Israel isn't the only client and competing for that money against other places in the world, but it has a lot going for it.
So I understand that this is your first time in Dubai. What was it like arriving there? Do you think that this is going to become the next popular tourist spot for Israelis?
I really do. First of all, we felt completely welcome. I think there's a lot for Israelis and for everybody to do here. It's a magnificent, it's really a wonder of a city. It feels like they've taken, the skyscrapers from every major city in the world and concentrated them here in a relatively small city, but home to millions. Shopping, entertainment, obviously beach and leisure activities. It's really got something to offer everybody, and of course a very significant hub for business, which a lot of people will come here for that. But I think Israelis will fall in love with this place. It's not as affordable as maybe Turkey or Greece, but it has a lot to offer. And as far as security, felt completely safe. Everybody speaks English, so it's easy to communicate. Lots and lots of nationalities around here. They boast of having people from 200 countries, and you can tell walking in the street or walking in the malls. You see and hear every language imaginable, and everybody feels like it looks and behaves as if they're at home.
Okay, and now that you're in Dubai, what do you recommend that tourists go see, if you could recommend one thing?
Well, look, you have to come to the city center. You have to, check out these landmark buildings. We've got the Burj Al Khalifa, the Burj Al Arab. If you're into shopping, Lauren, there's malls here where you could get lost in for days. All the brands that you're familiar with, and local brands that you might not be. As far as beach goes, they've got a beautiful coastal line with water sport activities. If you're into desert, you can take your pick of activities. Hiking and 4x4 driving, and extreme sports. Really, take your pick. It's a tourist playground.
All right, sounds like the dream. Ron Friedman, thank you so much, and have a safe flight back.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Well, budget airline Fly Dubai launched its first direct flight to Tel Aviv, the first scheduled commercial service between the two cities. Following the normalization of ties between the UAE and Israel in the Abraham Accords, of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was at Ben Gurion Airport for the arrival of the inaugural flight after its nearly 4-hour trip. Take a listen.
This is a moment of history, because this is the first commercial flight between Dubai and Israel. There'll be many more going both directions, but you can only be first once. And this is a pivotal moment, because we're changing history. It's not that we're marching forward, we're flying with breakneck speed into a new era that is now clearly changing the Middle East, changing the future of our peoples.
So after reportedly making a surprise visit to Saudi Arabia a few days ago, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had planned to visit Bahrain next week. But it looks like he will have to wait just a little bit longer. According to Israeli media, the groundbreaking trip has been postponed at the request of the Gulf Kingdom. What would have been the first ever officially announced visit to an Arab Gulf country by an Israeli prime minister will instead take place at the end of next month, and will be on a tour that includes other stops like the UAE. Well, Google is planning to deploy a fiber optic network cable that would connect Israel and Saudi Arabia. According to the Wall Street Journal, that was the reason for Netanyahu's alleged trip to the kingdom earlier this week. The two countries have no official ties, but U.S. President Trump has made it clear that he intends to convince them to normalize ties before the end of his term. That's just a couple of months away. More in the next report.
Because of political conflicts in the Middle East, almost all of the internet traffic between Europe and India currently goes through the region's one relatively neutral country, Egypt. Google, which is competing with Facebook to build high-speed cable networks worldwide, wants to change this dependency on Egypt by running its planned Europe to India cable over Israel and Saudi Arabia. According to the Wall Street Journal, Google's planned cable would for the first time connect through these two historical enemies, Saudi Arabia and Israel. The Journal says the breakthrough project follows deals orchestrated by the Trump administration that have created new diplomatic relationships between Gulf Arab states and Israel. The Journal reports that analysts say the Egyptian government charges telecom operators some of the heaviest fees to traverse its land and waters, which can add up to 50% of the cost of a route from Europe to India. Expanded connectivity between Europe and India would also help Google roll out data centers globally.
After several flare-ups on Israel's northern border with Syria recently, Israel is sending a direct warning to Hezbollah. Overnight Wednesday, the IDF reportedly dropping leaflets in the Syrian Golan Heights, a warning to the military to immediately cease coordination with both Iran and Hezbollah. According to social media posts, the flyers asked Syrians not to, quote, upset the stability, saying that Israel would take action against both Iran and Hezbollah if needed. Earlier Wednesday, the Israel Air Force were alleged to have carried out strikes in Syrian territory. British members of parliament say Amazon's Alexa might be anti-Semitic. The conservative Friends of Israel organization posted several examples to social media of the virtual assistant spewing conspiracy theories when asked questions about Jews, the Holocaust, and Israel. In one example, Alexa responded to a question about whether the Holocaust ever happened with a quote from Wikipedia's page on Holocaust denial. Member of Parliament Andrew Percy, chairman of the CFOI, submitted an official inquiry to the matter with the UK's Home Secretary. Listen to this example.
Alexa, do Jews control the media?
Here's something I found from the article Jew Watch on Wikipedia. Jew Watch claims that Jews control the world's financial systems and media.
For the first time in a month, Israel's daily COVID infection rate has climbed over 1,000 cases. Meanwhile, Israel plans to open several malls around the country so antsy citizens can finally go shopping and give a much-needed boost to the economy. But is it too risky? According to the Prime Minister, not with a vaccine on the way. Chana Rifkin reports.
This week, Israel begins a special pilot program aimed at stimulating the economy. Approved overnight Wednesday, the trial will include the opening of 15 malls around the country, outdoor markets, and some museums. In addition to the economic benefits, the pilot will also keep close track of virus infection rates alongside the openings. Israel is still planning to receive a first batch of vaccine doses this coming January, maybe even as early as December. While some are worried about where they will fall in the distribution plan, the Prime Minister insisted during a trip to a vaccine storage facility that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
שר הבריאות יביא צוות מקצועי שיציג לי ולשר הביטחון את ההמלצות לגבי אופן חלוקת החיסונים, אבל אנחנו בדרך ליציאה מהמגפה. זה ייקח עוד קצת זמן.
The health minister joined Netanyahu on his visit, along with the CEOs of medical companies who will assist in vaccine logistics.
על מנת להגיע לשם, כולנו צריכים לזכור שיש לפנינו עוד כמה חודשים לא פשוטים לעבור, ורק באמצעות שיתוף פעולה של הציבור, עם המסכה, עם ריחוק חברתי, עם שמירה על הכללים הבריאותיים, נוכל לחיות חיים סבירים בצל הקורונה.
Meanwhile, the health ministry reporting that over 1,000 Israelis had tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, for the first time in over a month. Since Wednesday, Israel saw 1,070 new cases. There are 294 serious cases, and the death toll stands at 2,827. Chana Rifkin, ILTV.
If you are an American expat living in Israel, then you know Black Friday. The day after Thanksgiving, most stores have crazy deals and people wait in line for hours. The images on TV of people getting into fights over who gets the last cheap TV have become a defining part of American culture. Now it's becoming more and more popular in Israel. So popular, in fact, that the government has decided to open malls especially for the big day, even amid a national pandemic lockdown. Let's see exactly how this will work and what we can expect from Yulia Kara. She's an editor at Ynet News. Thank you, Yulia, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm wondering, is this going to look like a normal Black Friday? A lot of people plan to storm the malls, of course. They've been closed for a long time. How will it work with corona restrictions?
Well, it's only 15 malls that are going to reopen, and the government didn't actually explicitly say that this is in honor of Black Friday, but it's just a weird coincidence that they decide to launch this pilot where they're going to reopen 15 biggest malls in the country for 1 week, which is Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So yeah, there are a lot of restrictions, but the retailers still expect a big turnout.
So these malls, the malls that are opening are not in Tel Aviv, correct? They're in other parts of the country. Where can we find the malls that will be open this week?
It's the offer group malls in Be'er Sheva, Petach Tikva, Kiryon, and other cities, not in Tel Aviv.
Okay, so back to those restrictions. Of course, as we said, a lot of people are planning to go shopping on these days, get these big deals, but we have a national pandemic. How is the government going to enforce restrictions inside the mall when everybody is, just so excited to go shopping and get what they need?
Well, the first thing is that they allow one person per 7 meters, which is one customer for every 7 meters of space, and the amount of customers should not exceed 10 people inside the store. They said they're going to have patrols inside the malls that are going to monitor that all the customers are adhering to social distancing and are wearing masks, and there are no overcrowding. It is still unclear how the stores are going to enforce overcrowding outside the stores, because if it's only 10 people inside, the lines are going to get big. So it's still unclear what the regulations are for that, because the health ministry hasn't come up with anything. So, but the health ministry did say that everyone entering the mall will be asked to give their ID and phone number, so in case there's an infection, they could contact them.
So I wonder how, the retailers themselves are preparing for this. Are they going to actually have to enforce these rules? And have the malls said, how many people they're expecting?
No, they haven't said how many people they're expecting yet. But they did. The retailers have been pressing really hard on the government to reopen it for Black Friday, and they're actually upset that they haven't reopened before, so they could prepare for the Black Friday, which is the biggest day in retail in Israel by far. So they still expect a lot of people, because people missed out on the shopping on Rosh Hashanah. So this is their opportunity to make up for that.
And aside from Black Friday, opening the malls is part of a pilot program coming out of the lockdown. How much could this week of shopping actually stimulate our economy in the situation we're in?
Well, last year on Black Friday, Israelis spent $915 million in credit card deals alone. So if you take into account all the other payment methods, it's well over 1 billion shekels in one day. So it is, and last year it was an increase of 15% compared to the same figure a year earlier. So it's going to be a big boost for the country, for the economy in general, and especially for the retailers, which are really, really struggling right now.
Okay, great. And if our viewers that are watching, want to go shopping and find the best deals on Black Friday, what can you recommend to them? Where can you tell them to go to find those deals?
Well, this year, compared to other years, all of the retailers are coming up with big sales, even the ones that are not generally known for that. Even those like Zara said that they will have up to 40% off. Some stores like Fox, for example, said they will open their stores at midnight, this is still not confirmed, but apparently Fox want to open their stores at midnight today. So basically it's in a few hours.
Wow.
So it's basically any store that you wish to shop, that you were eyeing something, you could get it this year, because everyone is coming up with deals.
Right. Maybe a symbol of some return to normalcy. Yulia Kara, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
The world lost a football legend on Wednesday, and even though he was from Argentina, pain is echoing around the world, including right here in Israel. Diego Maradona died at the age of 60, 2 weeks after having brain surgery. Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Reuven Rivlin eulogized the international legend, with Netanyahu calling him a true friend of Israel, a hero to many in Israel and across the world for his flashes of brilliance on the soccer field. He was also an outspoken supporter of Palestinian rights. Okay, moving on now. Happy Turkey Day. Today is American Thanksgiving, and so many U.S. expats living in Israel are looking for ways to show their thanks. One chef is offering a special Thanksgiving-themed menu that includes turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing. It's really making me hungry. All the classic favorites. It sounds delicious, doesn't it? Let's speak to Naor Weinreb, a local chef who is spreading the holiday cheer with his Tel Aviv holiday deliveries. Hey, Naor. Thank you for
Lauren,
joining
thanks
us.
for having me.
Okay, so tell me about your special Thanksgiving menu.
Well, since Corona hit, I had to start to think differently about how I do my thing and cook food for people. So this coming Thanksgiving, I thought that there was a big enough American community in Israel that I could cook Thanksgiving dinner, put it in a box, as you see here, and deliver it to their house.
And we can't, there is food inside the box, but we can't actually open it up,
This is actually an order that's on the way to a customer's house.
It is on the way to a customer. It's on the way to you, don't worry. Okay, so you're originally from the U.S. When did you move to Israel?
In 2006, so it's been about 14 years.
Okay, so obviously Thanksgiving was a big part of your life growing up. Maybe it still is a big part of your life. But why don't you tell me about the difference between how you celebrate here and how you celebrate back home with your American friends and your family, of course?
Well, with friends and family, I guess it's about the same. We get together, we sit down, we have turkey, and we have all the side dishes and say what we're thankful for. But obviously, I guess you don't feel the holiday in the air here. It's hard to find the ingredients in the supermarket. Sourcing a whole turkey is very difficult. But it's definitely something that me and my family have kept very close to us, and it's something that we do every single year.
Okay, so you, before the coronavirus lockdown, were a full-time chef, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell me about how this lockdown affected your entire life by taking away your day job, basically? How did it transform everything you do?
Well, for those who know, chefs work around 250 hours a month. So right when Corona hit, I was very excited. I got to relax. I got to sleep in a little bit. It was very fun. But after about a month, I'm like, okay, I still want to cook. Who am I going to cook for? How am I going to deliver my food to them?
How am I going to pay my rent?
How am I going to survive? We all have to survive at the end of the day. So I took everything that I love to do at the restaurant, and I started doing it from the facilities of my own home, which has been an incredible challenge.
How so?
Well, first of all, I have no industrial equipment at home, so we're talking about an oven, and we're talking about a stovetop and counter space and things that are very important to get the job done. And the fact that I have to work from the confines of my own home. So, my wife is very much affected by the fact that I turn our kitchen into a war zone every weekend, just doing what I do, but she's been more than supportive, and we've been making it work.
Is this the first time that you've created a made-from-home delivery menu for Thanksgiving, or is it something that you've been doing since the beginning of the lockdown?
So this is the first time I'm doing it for Thanksgiving, but it started about 2 months ago. I started doing it for Shabbat dinners. It's something I do once a week, and I have a few clients that want Shabbat dinners delivered to their house. And my concept was just to do it a little bit finer than home-cooked meals. So giving that personal chef feel to their food. And I guess that's how I learned the trade of packing boxes and tying this nice string and whatnot.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, my wife also helped me out with that.
So tell me about some of the highlights from the menu. I was reading it. I have it right here, actually, and it really made me hungry.
I'm very happy to hear that.
So what are the items you're most proud of on this menu?
Well, I didn't come up with any of the dishes. They're all very traditional, American.
I'm Canadian, by the way, so these are none of
you guys do have
we have Canadian Thanksgiving.
But you guys eat the same thing? Or?
It's a little different, but I didn't grow up celebrating it, so it's not exactly part of my home culture.
I made very American, old school, classic dishes that honestly many Jewish families don't even know how to cook or eat in their own home, like green bean casserole. Which any Jew living in the States would be like, that's not Jewish food, that's what non-Jews
What's
eat.
the most delicious thing that you want to tell our viewers to go right now and make it as fast as they can because it's so good?
Well, I really love my squash cooked in brown sugar and butter. Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's sweet, it's seasonal, it warms your stomach, it's very fitting for this time of the year.
All right, well, have a great Thanksgiving, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight, Israel's rainy weather continues. Expect lightning and cloudy weather as well in some parts of the country, with lows tonight averaging 56 degrees Fahrenheit and 13 degrees Celsius. Friday and Saturday will bring a mixture of cloudy and clear skies, with highs averaging 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 21 degrees Celsius. And just before we go, so I can go eat my Thanksgiving dinner, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. All right, just to add to all the floods we were talking about before, this is a young Israeli riding his kayak down the street through the makeshift river that has appeared since the flooding has happened. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.32 shekels to the American dollar and 2.55 shekels to the Canadian dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Lauren Izzo. Thanks for watching.